Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by
Sphere Exclusives. Looking for exclusive content from your favorite podcasts here at the Sphere? Head over to sphere.tv/Patreon and sign up today. True Digital Media Consulting. You're online right now and so are your customers, but marketing has to be a consistent journey. True Digital Media Consulting can help with your online ads, organic growth, and so much more. Contact us today at 832-934-4436 or visit our website at truedigitalmediaconsulting.com.
KOG and Company. Are your unique gifts and talents changing the world? Do you desire to belong to a community of unity? Visit KOGpassion.com to learn more about the Unleash Your Dopeness movement.
Hello, good people out there. Welcome to this episode of the Technocrats. I'm your host, Ariana McKinney. You can find me everywhere on social media at Dish with Ari. Today, our show is going to be a little different, and I'm excited. Not that I'm excited that Gary's not here, of course. We miss Gary. Shout out to Gary. But this is going to be a different type of episode because we, have a guest host today who I'm really, really excited about. But also, we are going to kind of celebrate International Women's Day, which, for those who don't know, is tomorrow. So today we have a STEMinist, and we will learn more about what that means exactly. An award-winning tech entrepreneur and an advocate for diversity in STEM. We have she is the founder and managing partner of Boss Business Market and the STEM Station, and she has at the age of just the age of 23 been named to the top 30 under 30 and future leaders of Charlotte in 2018. So let me introduce Miss Naomi Thomas. Say hello to the Technocrats fam.
Hi. I'm excited to be here talking to you.
Yes, I'm really excited to have you because, I love this tech thing, but it's super cool when you can come together with like a fellow, there aren't many women in tech, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that today. But it's exciting. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to come and chat with us for a bit. I appreciate it. So, introduce yourself to the people. First of all, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, you can find me on any platform at I am Naomi Thomas. That's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Awesome.
So, yeah, and I'm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And again, I am the founder and CEO of Boss Business Market, and we're a data-driven digital marketing agency. We do basic, social media management, web design, anything related in the digital space. We help brands disrupt their industry. And then I also founded the STEM Station, and with that, we create innovative learning experiences to attract and retain minorities and women in STEM. So we kind of act as consultants to companies that are interested in implementing diversity and diversity inclusion initiatives. And so we help them, create really innovative learning experiences, whether it be like a summer camp, a weekend program, or with our partners, we implement mobile innovation labs and help bridge the gap between the K through 12 community and the companies.
That is super dope for me. As we were talking about off camera before the show started, I'm a mom, so I am, always really interested and totally supportive of programs that are encouraging, minorities, whatever type of minority that might mean across the board, to getting into STEM, because as we know, that's lacking a lot. So I have a few things I want to ask you, because everything you're doing is so cool and super dope, and I
Thank
love
you.
it. Because we have a similar background in that, I also own a digital marketing company. Mine is what I like to call a social impact agency, and that like we do digital marketing and web design and all that stuff. But we kind of specifically, we work with companies who are wanting to, use their, whether it be influence or their corporate identity, to make social change. So we work with a lot of purpose driven brands and people that want to make a difference in the world, and so we're kind of on the same page, and I'm like, that's super cool. It's kind of same but different kind of thing. So
Right.
tell us what a STEMinist is, because that's like the first thing on your social media when you go in on your profile. So like, what is a STEMinist?
So a STEMinist, it's now an Urban Dictionary, by the way. It's kind of cool. But
Nice.
it's an advocate for increasing the presence of women in science, technology, engineering, and math. And those are the abbreviations for STEM. So it's anyone that is either in the technical fields in the STEM industry, or just advocates for supporting women and minorities that are interested in pursuing those careers.
I think that's amazing because, I had my time with the kind of, I guess you would say, what they've been called the tech bro culture. I worked at Square for a while, and I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. But it was it became very clear, like, that there was, lack of inclusion, whether, both from the side of being a woman and being like a woman of color. It was definitely lacking in both of those things. And it was the first time, like, when I got to San Francisco and was there training and was at headquarters, it was just kind of like, oh, no one looks like me. This is so crazy. And yeah, I think that's amazing. What made you decide, like, this is what I want to do? Like, tell us, like, what led you to here?
So my journey in the technical world actually started at a very young age. I built my first computer when I was 6 years old, and I just couldn't get my hands off technology. My parents put me in a lot of women in tech, women in engineering camps, computer science institutes like at UC Berkeley, UVA, and that was all throughout middle school and high school. I was always in some type of STEM related camp or educational experience, whether it be on the weekends or during the summer. And then I really got into, I guess, web design during the MySpace days. And, and it's kind of funny because little did people know that whenever you were editing your profile on the back end, you were actually like coding, in a sense where you were creating the infrastructure for the website, and I was just really, just amazed by the learning CSS, and I wanted my profile to have all this like glitter and music, and how can I integrate all these different technologies and to make my profile pop. And then my friends saw what I was doing, and I helped them with their profiles, and then I learned web design through that. Once I had introduction to HTML, I created websites for friends and family. Then I decided to monetize it in college, and I started a web design company, and then branched off to implement other services like social media management during this huge social media boom that everyone's realizing that like influencer marketing is very lucrative, and how you can really, disrupt and make residual income online. And so we're trying to help companies really find ways to target, and using data and analysis to, reach their target audience in a more effective way. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of us tech people like started in our bedrooms, computer rooms, like whatever it was. Mine was like my dad's an artist, so he had one of the first iMacs when they first came out in his studio, and I used to sit there and play with all this stuff, and then like realized that I had kind of a design for graphic design and an eye for it. And then I started making like flyers and programs for my grandmother's church. And that was like, and then it like grew from there. It was like, oh, maybe she can do the invitation to this. And that's when like graphic design grew into web design. And like you said, people don't realize like the MySpace age was making us all coders.
Exactly. Like what
Because you
happened? I
wanted
felt
your
like
profile to pop so hard.
right,
You want the
exactly.
glitter, the things spin, they do this, colors change, like gradients, like all these things, and it's just so super cool. So I think that's super interesting. So like once you decided, okay, like this is what I want to do, like I want to be in tech in some way, what made you decide I'm going to start my own thing? Like where did you, what was the moment when you were like, okay, there's a need for this and this is how I like came about like recognizing that?
I guess when I was creating when I was applying for colleges, I wanted to find a different way to to stand out amongst applicants. So I created this thing called a ResuWeb, a resume website that provided more of an interactive look into my resume that also involved pictures from my experience, my volunteering experiences, and I wanted to create this ResuWeb, which now it's similar to LinkedIn, a
Right.
platform that allowed people to have more interactive profiles and that allowed people to connect and see it in more visual form than a white and black piece of paper. And so I was, that's where my entrepreneurial spirit came about when I was like researching and trying to create this platform by myself, like as a senior in high school. And I learned a lot while doing that. Obviously, ResiWeb is not existing today, but it did catapult me into understanding that I can monetize web design. And a lot of friends and family, they had little businesses and they would ask me to create websites for them. And then, once I started receiving more and more requests, I'm like, okay, I want to start getting paid for this. And so I decided to monetize it.
Yes, getting paid for that exclusive content, right?
Exactly. So, and then when I was like experiencing all of the different summer camps, I, fell in love with Google. I'm actually wearing one of their shirts. I was able to experience an externship there in high school and went on a tour of the campus, and I just love the culture. Like tech companies, like they kind of invented their own, company culture, and I was just really like kind of starstruck at like this new world. And I realized, I want to be in this industry. I want to figure out ways that I can, add value to the innovation that's coming about. So, yeah.
It's all about the exclusive content, exclusive experiences, all that thing kind of helped, shapes the culture,
Exactly.
And speaking of exclusive content, this portion of the show is sponsored by the Sphere Exclusive Team. Looking for exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else? Look no further than our Sphere Exclusive found only on Patreon. We've got behind the scenes shots happening daily at the Sphere Podcast Studios. Each show on the podcast network curates episodes that are only delivered to Patreon subscribers. Plus, we deliver the show live from start to finish in our Discord server that's exclusive to our Patreon family. Sign up today at www.thesphere.tv/Patreon to join our $2, $5, or $8 Patreon tier and get access to all of the exclusive content we offer at The Sphere. Awesome. So that's amazing. It's
Thank you.
Interesting that it's the second you started describing what it was, I was like, oh, that sounds like LinkedIn.
Right, exactly. And this was like 2013, 2012. Oh no, yeah, it was like 2012, 2013.
That's so
So
funny.
that's I should have really been. I forget when LinkedIn was founded, but I
It was
could have
around
been
that
on.
time, I think.
Right.
Yeah, because I graduated college in 2010. So yeah, I think it was around that time. Yeah, sometimes, when you're like forward thinking that way, or you're constantly like, you're just like a serial entrepreneur and you're constantly thinking like, what can I do? What can I be doing? What can I be doing? You kind of have those moments where you're like, darn, I should have went with that.
Exactly. Right. Right.
Like,
Everything happens for a reason.
it does. I'm a firm believer in that. So, what's been your biggest challenge in tech? Like, what, what's been an experience that's kind of, I guess, been like a hurdle for you in tech? You're super accomplished at a really young age, but I know kind of getting more into, the lack of inclusion and the diversity aspect of technology, which is, everything has its kind of, its pros, its cons, its ups, its downs. I think definitely like the lack of diversity in tech is one of the things that can be vastly improved upon in the industry that you and I both love so much.
Right.
So like, what's been your
Yeah.
biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that?
So, as far as experiences, I had originally double majored in computer science and business management. And I dropped the computer science major because of the the issues that we experience in the STEM field. A lot of my classes, I was usually the only woman and definitely the only minority. Um, and when we had class projects, the teacher would tell us to get in groups and no one would want to pair with me, and I just felt really isolated, very intimidated. And I was finding more fun going to more I guess gender minority inclusive camps on the weekends, and coding boot camps that felt made me feel more welcome. So,
Mm-hmm.
and in computer science, it's an industry where and I forget his name,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, it's an industry where you're able to learn, the fundamentals on your own. You're able to learn remotely through the
Right.
computer. There's a lot of online resources, a lot of programs that are going on that you don't technically need a college degree in computer science. I think that the college degree in computer science gives you that fundamental experience to learn, but the curriculums are so outdated and there's so many new technologies that I feel like, colleges and universities aren't able to keep up. And so I decided to, drop that major, and I found more, I guess, passion in the entrepreneurial side of things, and still being involved in the tech community, still doing coding boot camps, understanding what developers are doing and not moving in the direction of, pursuing that software development path, but instead knowing what is going on and having those fundamentals down that I can lead teams and still be involved in the tech industry. And I think a lot of people, it's really important that they understand that when you pursue a career in tech, it doesn't mean that you are going to be developing 9 to 5 or coding or anything like that. There's so many other opportunities within every industry. There's fashion tech, beauty tech, sports tech, where you could be leading and adding insight as far as innovation, managerial styles. So it was maybe navigating that path I want to take in the world of technology that was definitely a hurdle that I had to overcome. And so I'm glad I was able to experience it to understand where I wanted to be.
Yeah, and you know what, you bring up some like a lot of interesting points in that statement. Just that there are so many ways to be involved with tech, and I think people, when they hear like, oh, you work in tech, they immediately like have this picture of you like, coding in a dark room,
In a dark corner, yeah.
like, and that's how it is. So I want to kind of dive deeper into that, but first, Facebook Livers, thank you all for tuning in, but you've got to subscribe to get the rest of the show. So, subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Review our show across all platforms and help us to build better content for you. Share the entire show with your family and friends right from the Sphere Podcast Network Facebook page. And last but not least, support our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can do a one-time donation at www.thesphere.tv/donate or get exclusive content almost daily via our Patreon tiers. Sign up at www.thesphere.tv/Patreon. Thank you so much for joining us, Facebook. Subscribe. Peace out. We'll see you next week. Okay. So, those of us still tuned in, let's get a little deeper into this tech world that we navigate, because, like I said in the beginning, this show, we're usually discussing kind of the tech news, and we don't really talk too much about, just where are we at now in terms of just like the people who are actually on the ground in the day-to-day experience of the tech world. Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, again, like I said, I think people think, oh, tech, and they have this picture of like just hunched over,
mathematics,
like,
all these
dark
formulas,
figure,
and
right,
right.
in a basement with like a hood over there, a hoodie on, like, just like,
Exactly.
hasn't eaten in maybe 3 days, like, just doing, that thing. And
Right.
there are so many different, ways. And that's something I want to speak on, because when we talk about, especially with International Women's Days, International Women's Day, blah, blah, celebrating their campaign this year, which is hashtag balance for better. I think, one of the things that would help attain balance in tech is if people understood that kind of, idea of what a person in tech is, that that it really is all encompassing. There's so many different roles to play. People sometimes, I used to get that all the time, like, oh, you work at Square? And it'd be like, well, what do you do? Are you in customer service? And it's like, well, no, I don't do that.
Right.
But like, it's either like you're in support, or you're, a coder or an engineer. And in between that, there's so many other things that like take, the app or the website or whatever it may be from, the ground to soaring. And for me, I was traveling around to different like cities and countries, and essentially like figuring out strategic partnerships for us, and like what industries we had maybe thought of for verticals that we could be marketing to. And I was planning community events and launching new products all over the place. And it was, I still had to know. We ended up being a team that kind of went back to the engineers a lot, and we're like, this is what people who are actually using it are saying is like frustrating them, or what they love, and then kind of being able to shape how the product developed from there, but more from a customer standpoint than, stepping behind the curtain, I guess. And I think if more people were aware, and we did a better job, like as an industry of kind of marketing the non-stereotypical tech
Right.
jobs, that we would maybe see, more talent willing to kind of pour into a field that's been, traditionally kind of this, homogeneous for the most part.
Right.
Do you like agree with that? Do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. And with the STEM station, I feel like that's our entire goal, is to tap into every single industry and create really cool learning experiences that highlight the career opportunities within that aren't stereotypical. So for example, in sports, we want to partner with NBA teams and create like tours that highlight the tech and data operations. If you're interested in sports, if you want to go into the league, but it's a very slim chance to make it and want to still pursue a career in sports industry, there's other opportunities that need their representation. In beauty tech, fashion tech, wearables, there's so many opportunities. So I agree wholeheartedly that there needs to be a way to highlight and expose these opportunities to help people, to come over to the right side of the world, and that creating innovative experiences that really, there's so much going on, so many cool things that need to be created, so many voices that need to be heard as well. People, you hear a lot of my peers are complaining about technology, or like, it's like you could be involved in this process it's problem solving. That's what computer science is. So it's like if you are in the room and you are working on launching this app, like having like a woman's voice, like a minority male's voice that gives their input on their own personal experiences, and then how they can implement those strategies to help make the customer experience better. And that's a technical role. You understand how the app, as long as you understand the fundamentals, which is really easy, because then, it's just adding your input if you're in a managerial role. And if you want to dive into actually creating the product, it's just as easy. But people need to kind of like break those barriers and realize that it's not as complicated as it may seem like it is.
Right. And no, and there's definitely like there are technical roles that are more about the customer, and there are technical roles that are more about the development of the product, right? So it's just there's
Right.
so many different facets, and I think what the industry needs to do a bit of a better job, in terms of just marketing the non-traditional tech roles or the non-stereotypical ones. But speaking of customers, this portion of the show is sponsored by True Digital. You're online right now, and so are your customers. The question is, how do you actively reach them? Marketing has to be a consistent journey, and we're here to walk with you every step of the way. True Digital Media Consulting can help with website development, online ads, your business reputation, and organic growth on search engines. Give us a call today to discuss a customized strategy for your business at 832-934-4436 or send us an email at info@truedigitalmediaconsulting.com. Mention the Sphere to receive a free 30-minute strategy consultation. So, yeah, this is a good one. Even the roles that we don't think about, like even nowadays, I mean, when you look at maybe like, let's say public relations, right? Which is kind of like marketing's cousin, but not the same. Like,
Right.
it's like sometimes marketers end up doing public relations and sometimes public relations people end up marketing. But in theory, they're two different things with just kind of, I guess, a few degrees of separation. But I, look at how much even like the PR industry, which I guess we wouldn't have necessarily considered traditionally to be a technical role, but how everything is a technical role. Like people don't realize if you're designing custom Facebook banners or Instagram Instagram stories and things like that, that's technical. Like, it's just, it's more of the creative technical side. But again, I feel like technology is this kind of gradient. But
Right.
most people think of it as this like black white situation, but
Exactly.
really it's this really huge gradient. And there's so many different ways to be in tech.
And anyone who thinks they've like mastered anyone who uses Instagram, uses social media products, you're understanding like all the features that are implemented in the app and what you
Right.
can use with it. And that's like everyone can transition into a technical role just based off of that.
Right.
You're already and people are using it excessively, to a point where they'd be very good coders if they really apply the skills that they learned from an abstract. Like it's more of like a hobby social, but it's like you translate that into work, then your work becomes something fun. So people need to
Yes.
understand that part of it.
That's exactly right. That was
Yeah.
great. Like I just think, like, what do you think, based on being around and being about, and I know kind of like what I think about it just because, my role when I was in a tech company, what one would consider one of the major tech companies, was essentially getting people to use our product, but having to also go and set that up and be like kind of the first person that people would call when their stuff wasn't working right. And so, like, I found that we were really good at like going to these trade shows, going to these events, like planning these events, getting people to want to use our app and use our product, but we weren't like, there wasn't that same passion and fervor when it came to like getting, it's just awareness in the fact that like every job we have is not a coder. Everyone that you see here does not code. Some of us don't know like how to code,
Right.
and you can still design
Exactly.
websites. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Right.
many tools out there today, and a lot of like joy to be found in it without necessarily having to go through all the kind of blood, sweat, and tears of like, I have to be a coder to design websites. No, you don't, like now, but you have to be like maybe creative and you have to have a good eye for design. And there are other things that come into it, but you don't have to be a coder to do these things. Like, what do you think as like an industry we could be doing better to market these varying like degrees of being in the tech industry?
I think that's a solution. I feel like a lot of companies are trying to tackle, and the numbers or the representation of what like to have a diverse representation of technical, I guess, leaders in the STEM fields. I feel like it's all about, I guess, targeting people at a young age. I mean, that's what a lot of people are doing, but also still capturing and retaining the interest of not just K through 12, but students in college and, people who've graduated as well that are interested in transitioning in those roles. It's just a matter of, starting to, I guess, disrupt media and not just having, TechCrunch be the main technical outlet for tech news, but, tapping like Essence revealing a tech section on their website, tapping into markets that majority of the people that we want to see represented in the industry, or those certain audiences, not just K through 12, but if anyone that's following health and beauty, but just starting to filter like more tech, I guess, content, and then, partnering with companies that are, they're releasing career opportunities and trying, if they're a beauty tech company and there's an influencer that's really passionate about beauty and figuring out how they can play a role in the technical process. And it's going to start from, it's kind of like, it's just exposure. It's kind of from a PR standpoint.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's like exposure of these opportunities, but in different markets where everyone's focus is on. So I guess that's kind of like my thought process around how to tackle that issue. But I feel like it's also really diving into the entire data boom and analyzing, what is grabbing everyone's interest and how to retain them, or, make it a word of mouth type of effect.
Right. I think for me, it's definitely like a start young, like exposure at a young age, kind of before they're old enough to realize that there's anything weird about like them being not the kind of, I hope one day we don't really have to have the conversation about like the, majority in tech, or, this tech type, or what we consider, someone who's in the tech industry. But, I just think it kind of shows you, in one end, it's interesting because it's like tech is, jumping by leaps and bounds every day, but in some ways we're still very much behind when it comes to the fact that I think a lot of women, minorities, aren't in the tech industry simply because it just wasn't something that, we were really exposed to as a point, as something that's like, important. And I think, with like my son's generation, him being 5, and like those kids can work iPhones and iPads and everything like better than we
But
can.
I also feel like, there's been a huge increase in those opportunities for students and kids at a younger age. And I feel like we're really only going to feel that effect as far as, leveling the playing field when they've, become of age to enter the workforce. And I feel like everyone's starting initiatives, and that's great that everyone's tackling those problems now. But people are still saying like, it's still an issue, but it's like, you're not, if you're focusing or just tackling K through 12 and you want the issue to fix now, you would have to wait a few years to see it come about, because, a 5-year-old's not going to join Google. And start, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of like, patience is really important for everyone that's also trying to implement these initiatives to diversify the STEM world. But it's also like figuring out how to tackle all ages, and not just K through 12. So, but in order to see improvements in the future, that's where you start K through 12 course.
Absolutely.
To see improvements now and seeing people, on a yearly basis, it's a slower process, but it's more just tackling like what people are already catered to, and it's kind of like figuring out the marketing approach to it instead of just what it is, because obviously people see computer programmer opening. It's like that's not going to draw people's attention. So it's kind of like taking a marketing standpoint. How can we really market these careers? Kind of like you're marketing the company or the
Right.
product. How do we market these careers in a really engaging or capturing way?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's always like that's been the area of tech that, has always engaged me and been kind of my passion is like the connection between like the understanding the science, but like people, like the people, like and
Right.
how they're utilizing the science, and that's always, so I've always been on the very like other end of tech. Like I'm not interested in sitting around and coding for hours and kind of that thing. But I am very interested in like the study, like kind of this more, I guess, the sociological or like the aspect of tech. Like how are people
Right.
using it? Like that's why AI fascinates me. Like yes, AI is cool because it's AI and it's cool. It's like it's the
Right.
stuff we've seen in movies like happening. You know what I mean? But to me, what's interesting about it is like how I'm interested in like the bias that can be like how our own human biases are reflected in the AI that we create, because there's biases against people of color in AI and against women, and just because there's just not there's not enough women at the table who are having the conversation when it's being coded or programmed to say like,
Exactly.
this is not what we would want, or this is how we would react, or this is how we wouldn't, or this is how
Right.
a person of color, like this is why this is inherently flawed. And there needs to be a lot more of that, and you don't have to code to be able to know that like this is an experience I've had and this is why AI should not like
Exactly.
go
Exactly.
the same way. So yeah, I mean it's a it's a field I think that's definitely like catered to those with like unique gifts and talents, and I think we're just starting to kind of wrap our head around how people's various passions and gifts and can kind of fit along that spectrum we've talked about. And speaking of unique gifts and talents, this portion of the show is sponsored by KOG and Company. Are your unique gifts and talents changing the world? Unleash Your Dopeness is a people empowerment movement built to encourage the masses to operate outside of their fears and have the gall to recklessly pursue their dreams and passions in life. Join thousands of others as we unlock the greatness that dwells inside. Shop dope gear at kogpassion.com. That's kogpassion.com, and use coupon code DOPE with an exclamation point for 10% off exclusive Unleash Your Dopeness apparel. Act now. Sizes are selling out fast. Well, this has been a super cool conversation. I think I wanted to end with like, for me, of course, like I said, I'm into the marketing aspect of tech, and I got your media kit, and I thought your whole personal branding thing is like on point.
Thank
So I
you.
wanted, and I think that's important because, I know at least I've always heard from my mother, and I know a lot of people of color have probably heard the same, that you've got to be kind of 2 times, 3 times, 5 times as good to, get, as much, if even as much recognition or, accolades and things about that. And you're already so accomplished at such a young age. And, your brand is super, it's kind of what I always try to teach people, which is like, very consistent, but appropriate to each different platform. And you kind of get a little bit of a different side of you on, each platform, but it's consistent enough that, it's you, like you don't question, like, is this really who I'm looking for? And so, that's like a seminar and a workshop that like my company offers, and so that's like a huge kind of passion point for me. So what advice do you have for people that are like, I'm as good, if not, I'm there, I've spent the time, I've put in the work, I know that I'm ready to take it to the next level and be really recognized as an authority in my field. I don't care, because I know at 23, like I'm 32 now, but I dealt with it when I first started. I was not even out of college when I hadn't even graduated yet when I first started my first business, and was like dealing with like the event side of like event tech. And would get a lot of like, do you know what you're doing, are you even old enough to be, so ageism is definitely, I mean, not so much in like the coding side, because you kind of expect the coders and kind of just the people working at these major tech companies to be like on the younger side. I mean, like you look at like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, and they're all, they're young, they're in their 30s. But I mean, like, in terms of like feeling confident in the fact that, yes, you may be different, you may not fit the prototype of what someone thinks a person in tech is, but like, you're there, you're ready now to like take it. Maybe your goal is to like get some speaker jobs, or maybe it's to hold workshops, or maybe it's to, get nominated and win an award for being a 30 under 30 or a future leader of whatever city you're in, such as you've done. What advice would you have?
I would definitely say that my success online has definitely, a lot of it had to do with building my community and being a support system to a lot of people that I knew were trying to do the same thing as me. And speaking of International Women's Day, the community, the fan base, and all of my peers online that I've connected with that are women online, they've been the biggest support system that I've not only been able to, collaborate and, support them and get ideas to help boost my profile and my personal brand. I've been also able to, find experiences and opportunities through them as well. Because, as you have networking, if you see an opportunity that could fit within someone that you can introduce them. I've received a lot of introductions through just women that I've never met personally, face to face. Like, I haven't met you in person, but we were connected. And it's like, that's what social media gives you the opportunity to do. And that's what I love so much about it, is really that connectivity. And if you use it the right way, then you'll find success instead of, just being consumed in, a lot of people are consumed in entertainment and drama online. And it's like shifting your focus to, what type of impact you want to make and what type of people you want to connect. And it's just a simple, DM to another woman, just introducing yourself. I've hopped on a lot of calls just to introduce ourselves and see if there's any synergy or what's going on, just to have them in my network. And then it's also going to like design principles and figuring out like what is a look and feel of, like, how do you want people to, what do you want them to experience when they go to your profile? And that's what I do as far as like Instagram. It's more personable. And then LinkedIn it kind of caters to the platform.
Right.
But I had a look and feel, like I picked like a brand color. I looked at myself as a business in a sense, where I had
that right
there,
like
a little logo. Yeah. And I had, like a color scheme, and I stay consistent with that, with everything that I do. And so I think that's like the biggest thing to do, as far as like being a lot of people who are in technical fields, there is stereotypes around being introverted, and it is true, because I honestly am very introverted. And a lot of people don't understand, like they don't realize that, but I spend most of my time by myself, and I will leave to go to like social events if needed, but I prefer to be in a room. Like, if I have my fridge stocked up, I will be in a room until the food runs out, and I won't even leave and have any type of human interaction. Like, that's just me, and I understand that, but it's kind of like breaking out of your shell and seeing what happens, and not being discriminated if it doesn't work out the way you want it to.
Right.
And it's just kind of just trust your journey, and everything does happen for a reason. So,
well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us and joining the Technocrats fam today. Super dope conversation. Congrats on everything you've been doing. Keep it going.
Thanks so much.
I definitely look forward to hearing more from you and your ventures. And you can go ahead and tell the good people once again where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I am Naomi Thomas. On Facebook as well. I am Naomi Thomas, and feel free to reach out. I'm pretty accessible. Shoot me a DM, email me. The emails are in all my social media pages. So I look forward to connecting with anyone that's watching this. And whenever I'm in Houston, I would love to stop by and meet up with you.
Yes, please do.
That would be great.
We have to. That would be amazing. Or if I'm ever in Charlotte.
Yes, come
yes,
through.
that would be amazing. Thank you. Once again, I'm your host, Ariana McKinney. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and Insta at Dish with Ari. And thank you once again, Naomi. I won't see you guys next week because I'll be on vacation, but Gary will be back next week with his own guest host. And I guess I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.